You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality art, interviews, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Dini Mussolini and co-hosted by Banditti. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at least 1 hour after each show at www.onlyonemediagroup.com. We welcome all. Enjoy the show.
Oh yeah, one time for my people that are indigos, and 2 times for my people that are vegans. We are up, folks, to over 34,000 listeners per episode and over 865,000 downloads worldwide. And we've been at it for 3 solid years. I appreciate all you guys who have been rocking with me on this journey, and we are still growing, baby. It is all because of you guys, most definitely. We are the people who have dedicated their lives to music, art, and research in every aspect, and we want to allow you that opportunity to tell your story. Man, we've had celebrities on the show, from Grammy Award-winning artists to nominees to actors, comedians, technology geniuses, from authors to professors and aliens. Or people who think they're aliens. It doesn't matter, though, who you are or what walk of life that you come from. Come on the show and talk to us. So check it out. To book an interview or just to share a real cool story, email me at vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. I am passionate about what I do, just as passionate about what you do. And together, yes, together, we can get your voice heard by the people that should hear it. So let's create something incredible. And with that, hello out there, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Vigilantes Radio. Thank you again for always tuning in and being a part of our audience family. So listen, if you like information on how to call in, ask questions, or speak to the guests, you can dial this number, 701-801-9813. And since we are in a day and age of text messaging, check this out. You can visit my website, which is onlyonemediagroup.com. Scroll over to the Vigilantes Radio tab and slap that go live button. And there's a chat room where you can send me messages, even send questions for me to ask our guests, because I know a lot of you guys do not like to pick up the phone and call. You rather send a message. But that's cool. We got it all covered. No need to worry. All episodes are available for free download at least an hour after the show. If we have to do edits, it may take a day or 2, but normally we don't. We only edit like the pre-recorded ones. The live shows are, pretty much live and raw, and that's what you get, even all of my bad jokes and rambling. And you can grab that from our server over at Spreaker.com/onlyonemediagroup. Be sure to follow us there. You can even grab the episodes from iTunes, YouTube, and now we're on the app called Podcast Addict. Yeah, that's right. You can carry us around in your pocket. How cool is that? 24/7 access, right? Or you can just do the old-fashioned way and visit our website, which again is onlyonemediagroup.com, and hit the download button. And that goes for every single episode that I ever aired. Okay, tonight's episode is the Dusty Wright interview, and I'm your host, Dini Mussolini. All right, moving on through the announcements. Not many announcements. I just want to tell you guys I will be out in Hollywood, Kenyon Country, San Diego, Burbank, Van Nuys, first week of March 2nd through the 6th. That's right, yeah. You can purchase tickets from songkick.com/No Longer the Hero. We will be performing. So if you're out in Hollywood, I would love to meet you and greet you. So, yeah, like I said, not many announcements. We've been busy doing the podcast thing, right? You know, being independent journalists. So that's real cool on our end. I just want to tell you guys, like, I know a lot of you are, a lot of listeners here are like startup business owners, vegans, musicians, artists. You know, we come from all different walks of life. So I know like a lot of you guys are busy making it better because life is not always fair, but you can do something about that, right? Life is not fair, but you can still achieve things anyway. You could complain about the unfairness, but your complaints won't change much. A better option is to accept what is and use that acceptance to find a workable way forward. Anger, despair, resentment are all understandable and not particularly effective. So take their energy and point that energy in a positive, constructive direction. Yes, there is unfairness and injustice, yet you can be a counterbalancing force for yourself, for another maybe, for many. Imagine what could happen if you let your negative impressions of life turn into positive actions. Instead of feeling the same old frustrations and disappointments again and again and again, my friends, you can harness them and move life forward. So go beyond blame, go beyond despair, beyond judgment, and let life be what it is for now and get yourself busy making it better. All right, so with that, let's see, we have about, oh my goodness, we have roughly 18,000 people live here with us. Be sure to send me a hello in the chat room. Jeez, you guys are going to break the internet one day, I promise. And let's get into the real reason why you guys, why 18,000 of you guys have tuned in tonight. It's not for little Dini Mussolini, is it? No, it has to be for Dusty Wright, which is cool. He's a radical guy. And as part of our ongoing commitment to helping undiscovered musical and video talent get exposed worldwide, Vigilantes Radio will host interviews on a regular with in-depth Q&As and pass them on to you, the music and information lovers. So let's take some time and listen in on a conversation about a great person. So I could call him a producer, an artist, a songwriter, or purveyor of metahumans. I mean metaphysical Americana. And that metahumans is for you DC fans out there in whatever multiverse you're in. So he's made a soundtrack appearances and emphasis on appearances. Music video award winner, curator. He interviews an assortment of actors and entertainers, and he's secretly Batman. Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to give that away. Sorry, Dusty. I could not hold my peace any longer. Of course, I'm kidding. But my God, Dusty Wright has accomplished a lot. So my curious mind wonders if he reached his milestone yet. And my fellow listeners out there, you might not have ever heard of Dusty Wright before, or you may have. That's why 18,000 of you guys are here. But I guarantee you that after this interview, yeah, Google stock will go up because you guys will be mining for just as much info about Dusty as possible, right? Of course, of course, of course. So Dusty Wright is doing something truly, truly unique. The way he plays the guitar is not only flawless and stuff full of technique, but his ear for tone and melody are far above average. He's also a tremendously grounded person with an approach to music that is very organic and real. I testify, all right? We invite you guys to learn more about Dusty Wright through this interview. This can go in so many directions, and we could probably chat about aliens. Who knows? I'm fascinated with that kind of stuff. So anyway, without any further ado, let's welcome Dusty Wright to our show. Welcome.
Hey, Deanie, thank you, man. From the bunker in New York City.
From the bunker
I got to protect myself from any reptilians that might be out there.
See, I told you guys we could talk. Oh, man, we could talk. All right, man. Shall we dive deep into this interview?
Let's go, man. I'm ready.
All right. Thank you so much for taking out some time, first of all, to talk music with us tonight. I need your help in bringing all of us up to the current with what you have going on. The new album is out, Caterwauling Towards the Light. Congratulations, and we'll talk more about that. But really, we want to know, where have you been and where are you going?
Every day is Halloween. Every day is a new chapter, Deanie. You know, I've been very blessed to have had some very interesting journeys in my life, and music has been a big part of it. You know, it wasn't always first and foremost in the front, like you said, with that beautiful intro. I've been given the opportunity. I started podcasting years ago and had the opportunity to interview a lot of celebrities and musicians. You know, everyone from Wynton Marsalis to Ron Howard to Kevin Bacon, you know, 1 degree separation from Kevin Bacon now, I guess I can say, right? To Bud Hopkins, who, you know, as you know, an alien hunter like us. Bud Hopkins has written some really groundbreaking books on aliens and abductions. And so, but music was always there, was always bubbling under. And I got kind of sidetracked for a while I was doing it. I was running Cream magazine. Some of your listeners may remember Cream. We were like the bastard son of Rolling Stone magazine. Mm-hmm. And from that, I was able to, I worked with Prince for a short period of time. I published a magazine for Prince called New Power Generation. Wow. So I've had some crazy, fun, kind of pinch myself, I can't believe I'm doing it, experiences. And, you know the power of sharing stories, right? And sharing them from the heart, as you said in your intro. You know, I always try to look at the glass half full. You know, I was asked to interview Prince at a time period when he wasn't doing interviews, and he had made some incredible, crazy demands. Like I couldn't bring a tape recorder, I couldn't bring a piece of paper, I couldn't bring a pencil. And I thought, well, how am I going to do this? I said, you know what? I'll figure it out when I'm there at Paisley Park. And lo and behold, 7 months later, his guys were asking me if I wanted to work for him publishing his magazine. And of course, who could refuse that offer, right?
Yeah.
But music was always, you know, and I have to say, I am first and foremost a fan of music. I was at a show tonight with my wife. Do you guys know Betty Levette from Detroit, Michigan?
Yes.
Yeah, I went to see Betty Levette tonight. I mean, literally, I told my wife, I said, look, if she runs over, we're going to have to duck out because I can't be late for this interview. And thankfully, she ended at 10 o'clock, and I jumped in a cab, and I got uptown and got in front of my computer to make it for this interview. But that just shows you, like, on any given night, I will go see live music, even though I might, you know, have gigs coming up and stuff. I'm always inspired by seeing artists and seeing what artists bring to a table. Tonight she did a Bruce Springsteen song, Streets of Philadelphia, about the AIDS crisis. You know, he did it for that Ron Howard movie years ago. And her version of the song, I would encourage all your listeners to make sure they YouTube Betty Levette, Streets of Philadelphia. It was like my hair was standing on end. I mean, she got a standing ovation, as deservedly so. But I'm a music fan and an alien fan too, I might add.
Yes, sir. All right, I share a lot of personal things with my audience from time to time, so I'll share another one tonight. And this one's about Dusty. He probably doesn't even know this, but when I was starting out my podcast, I was looking for, you know, inspiration and format. And Dusty was one of the first guys that I studied. Now, our formats are different, but the inspiration and the way that he approached his guests is pretty much the same here that I do. And so, Dusty, I just want to tell you,
wow,
from computer screen to computer screen.
Crazy, right? That's major blessings to you, Deanie. Thank you. You know, you never know if people were listening in the early days when we were doing this stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, they didn't have the digital tracking that they do now. So you would do an interview, and maybe Apple would promote it in their podcasting directory, and maybe somebody would email you. But like today, like you said, you can have people dial in, they can send you a tweet, an email, Facebook you. You can get bombarded with reactions from people. So I am very honored that you heard our humble little podcast, because I wasn't sure people were really hearing it back then, And no, I really appreciate that. And you're right. It was very much like very conversational, like you and I right now, Deanie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to go in with kind of any political agenda with my guests. I really wanted to find out about them, what they were interested in, how they live their lives, what their passions were. Because I think so many times celebrities are out there, they're pimping their music or their movies or their theater thing, whatever it might be, and they get kind of stuck in autopilot, and they're just kind of answering the questions by rote because, they got to do the press junkets, as we know. Mm-hmm. And then oftentimes, if you can get them off track like you do, like you're so good at, you can get them to get real with you. And that's where the audience really comes to appreciate an artist, I think. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the interview come across my desk, and, my hair is standing on the back of my neck because this was a guy that sparked this whole Vigilantes Radio. Without Dusty, I don't think we'll probably still be talking about conspiracies, maybe. So thank you, Mr. Dusty Wright, for the inspiration to go into interviewing.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing well, my friend, and I'm glad that, sometimes we hit a little bit before the podcasting really broke off big. So, back in the day, we used to tease each other. I met some crazy fun people from all over the country, all over the world, actually. We'd go to these podcast seminars and stuff in L.A. or Chicago or New York, and you'd meet people that were doing. I met these crazy guys from Utah that had an extreme skiing podcast, and they would interview the extreme skiers when that sport was just starting to break. Or I met a guy that did nothing but woodworking. It's just obscure things, really niche marketing, cool things. I met a priest that had a podcast. It was everything and anything.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was like, I used to say we were like ham radio operators. We were all kind of going, well, there's no gatekeepers to tell us what we can and can't do, so let's just throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. Right. And now it's really, as you know, podcasting is huge. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you can carry it in your pocket, on your mobile device. You can listen to it on your desktop. You can share it with your mom. You can share it with your best friends. It's just part of our nomenclature and our day-to-day landscape, really.
Yes, sir, it is. So did you study any of this professionally, or did you learn it all, do it yourself, really, Dusty? What's the actual story behind what's brought you to music in the first place?
Well, I'd always studied music when I was growing up in Akron, Ohio. I had a guitar teacher who was very regimented, and, it kind of turned me off on music because I wanted to play, the contemporary music of the time. I didn't want to really spend the time on learning scales and theory and things that really are important. In hindsight, I wish I would have probably buckled down a little bit more on that. But I think that also lends for some of the tones and textures I've been able to create, because I kind of had to invent things on my own because I ran away from it. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to say, when I go see jazz players play, I said, I know those guys have chops because they have learned how to read music and play music on a scale that is truly beyond this world. And I always say, if you think you're a good musician, go see some guys play jazz. And you'll see some guys improvising off of things that, I can't even fathom, and playing their instruments so masterfully, whether it's piano, sax, upright bass, whatever it is. But, at some point I was able to kind of harness my lack of the formal musical education and grab what I was absorbing from the world around me in the 70s, and all the music explosion of that era. My cousins were going to Kent State University. They were playing me Sly and the Family Stone, the Rolling Stones. They were playing me the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, I remember my cousin gave me the Temptations' Greatest Hits Volume 2 one year for Christmas, and I wore that record out, So the influence that I was absorbing was just crazy. And then the radio in its day, because we didn't have the distractions of all the video games and everything. So, you would really absorb things from the 3 or 4 television channels you had, or the local radio stations. And you heard everything and anything. And then you'd go to the concerts, and growing up in Akron, which is very close to Cleveland, you could go up to Cleveland and see a great band play. You could go see Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or The Clash or the B-52s or Devo. There was just an explosion of music. And I was just absorbing as much as I could, Deanie, just absorbing, trying to figure out what my sound was or what it wasn't. And it really wasn't until I got to New York in the 80s that I really had I guess I had that breakthrough moment where I thought, well, I guess I can do music and not have to worry about what people think, because New York was so insane with music back then, and culture and art and street art, and there was just a collision of everything and anything happening. And musicians were like happy to play with you. And that really gave me that confidence, I think, that I probably didn't get in Ohio, even though there was cool music, but the community wasn't as rich as it was in New York or LA or some of the other areas.
Definitely. And guys, listen, there is real talent here. And you'll be able to hear what I'm talking about and confirm what I'm saying, okay? There's talent for melody, talent for songwriting, talent for the guitar itself. So regarding I Am Not Willing from your latest release, Caterwauling Towards the Light, how long does it actually take you to write a song like that?
Well, sometimes the best songs will come very fast. You'll have I'll pick up a guitar and I'll start plunking around a melody or something, and it could be acoustic or it could be electric, and maybe I've heard a snippet of conversation, or someone looks at you sideways and you walk home angry, and you think about that and you start to distill that, and you think, oh, how do I make that anger that maybe that person was throwing at me into a positive? So, these songs, I think the songs that have lasted the longest in my repertoire probably came pretty quickly. But then there are other songs, like maybe you'll start a melody and you just get stuck. And one of the beauties of the internet today and digital media is you can record a snippet of a song on your iPhone, throw it into Pro Tools or GarageBand or whatever you use, and then start to build on the song. Throw the lyrics down and maybe a drum track. I mean, it's such a medium today for creativity. The access to recording music is crazy. I'm just blown away. Like, I can literally send an idea to a friend cross country. He can throw a bass track back to me. I did this with one of the very first track on the record, Fall Out of Line, about the homeless. My friend David did the vocal in London and then threw it back to me. I thought, I didn't even know if he'd like the song. I said, I hear your voice on this song, David. If you're into it, send me, your WAV file, your AIF file from Pro Tools, and we'll fly it into the track with the engineer. And he happened to do so. But yeah, to answer your original question, songs can come fast and furious, and other times they can be laborious, and they'll sit on my computer desktop for a year or 2 years. This record was a labor of love because it took over 2 years to make, and during that time period, I lost both my father and then my younger brother this past summer in a very crazy motorcycle accident. So the songs then became a little bit more significant for me because I was trying to work through my depression and my grieving, and I really didn't know how to do that because my brother was in Ohio, my mother was in Ohio, my father had been in Ohio, and he had passed the year before. And, even though I have a family here in New York, I was separated from my blood family. So, this music then took on a different thing, and the song started to morph into something a little bit different, and hence the title Caterwauling Towards a Light. Made me look at my life a little differently, you know, as a middle-aged guy, looking at what does life mean, the finality of life, what is the joy of life, you know, what is the roller coaster ride of life really is to me. That's the term caterwauling, kind of tumbling head over heels towards that light that we're all going to go to at some point, right? We're all going to go into the light. And the record then was informed by that. But I didn't want the record just to be this Debbie Downer thing, you know. I wanted to have some uplifting melodies with the seriousness of the subject matter. And I wanted people to find hope and reason that, you know, we're all dealing with this stuff every single day. You know, there's nobody immune from having depression or anxiety or joy and elation. It's just a big, giant roller coaster ride. Right. And to me, that was hopefully the central message of this record is like, yeah, even in the darkest moments, you can find that light at the end of the tunnel to pull you out, you know. It might just be a gesture from your best friend, a pat on the back saying you're doing a good job. Or it could be a smile from a stranger who opens the door, or you opening the door for a stranger, or you bumping into somebody and you say, excuse me. Those small things can really connect you with, you know, the greater universal vibe and vibration that I think we're all in.
Definitely. Yes, sir. And the song, I Am Not Willing, sounds incredibly full. There is a zero need for anything else at all, in my opinion. But to make it that way in richness must take a serious amount of effort and time. So how do songs like this and others come to life?
Great question. That particular song, when I was working on it, I play with the cellist from time to time, my friend Matt Gerke. I met him years ago, and one of the things I was trying to do with the project, somebody had told me that a cello resonates in the same vibratory frequency as the human voice. And I thought that would be really cool to have that second voice in the band as opposed to a vocalist, but have the cello part. And I met Matt. He was playing with this, and he's a very, very profound, trained classical musician who has his own classical music projects. But he was a friend of a mutual friend. We got together. We started working on tracks, and it was like, you know, I was like blown away, that he even wanted to play with me, because you know, like when you play with people who are better than you, they make you better, and you're also humbled by that experience, or at least I was very humbled by that. So this particular song, I'm Not Willing, I thought a cello part would be great to kind of mirror the melody as opposed to a second voice. You know, I was thinking about a female voice, which would have been interesting, and, you know, the protagonist is talking about love and trying to understand love, but the cello and then some of the other parts that come, you know, I like a lot of space in my music, although I do love hip-hop, and I love the Beastie Boys or Public Enemy or Kendrick Lamar. I love when people can collide 1,008,000 things into a song. I guess my brain doesn't move that fast, so I have a lot more space in my music. And, you know, you might hear an acoustic guitar passage give way to a cello passage, give way to an electric guitar. The drums might come in later. The bass line might be very simple, but kind of pulsing with the melody. And that I guess, you know, I guess we all vibrate, as I said, at a different frequency. So you know, those tones and textures that I go for from song to song, I kind of try to listen to what the song is telling me they need. And I know this is, you know, for young musicians out there, there is a tendency to try to cram too much music into a track, you know, because you can add 48, 56, 112 different tracks onto a specific song. You could keep layering and layering and layering, and that might work for some things, but sometimes less is more, you know. Sometimes just Miles Davis once said, you know, sometimes all you need is one note. You just play that one note at the right moment, and you've got somebody hooked. And I maintain that, like, you know, I'm not the best vocalist, but if you can just hit that one note and convey the emotion of the song and get somebody to appreciate it, yeah, then I think you've done your job, or at least I hope I've done my job.
Definitely.
So I guess that answers it. I don't know.
I think so. So my impression is that this is a very focused solo effort, as you mentioned earlier. With the passing of your father and younger brother, my condolences. That the record became different. So this guitar of yours is so addicting in its own that you really don't need a band. Could this be an aversion to people in general?
I think sometimes when you're insulated and you're creating music like this, you can, you can insulate yourself. And even though I have a band, Giant Fingers, some of these songs I didn't bring in my guitarist. I wanted to do them myself because I think that I felt like maybe he is on the record. Don't get me wrong, and as are some of the other guys in the band. But there were some songs I felt like they were too personal, and I just had to grieve with the songs. So, for instance, some of the songs I did the drum programming, and I kind of surprised myself because I thought, I don't know if I could handle this. Could I really, drum programming is really hard to do, I think, to really be compelling. So there was like on the song I Got Lost, which was about my father's dementia, I created this great drum loop, and I decided not to use any cymbals on it. And a drummer friend of mine who was playing with us one night goes, I love the drums on this, man. Who played the drums? I said, I did. I programmed them. She goes, really? There are no cymbals on it. I said, yeah, I know. I didn't want cymbals on it. I wasn't sure if it would work. But it gave it a very tribal driving thing, And, I could have called my drummer in, who's an amazing drummer, but I thought, I wonder if he would have played it that way, like the way I programmed it. And I wasn't sure. So I guess sometimes, you need the right tool for the job. Some of these tracks needed my guitar, only, my electric guitar on it, with what I was hearing in my head for that specific moment. So, yeah, I'm glad you picked that up because it could have very easily been a Giant Fingers record, and the band would have come in and they would have played on all 10 songs, and it probably would have been different, I guess. It probably would have had a different vibe.
Definitely. And you've accomplished so much throughout the years. The music video performances on YouTube are just astounding. And probably you as well just have to be wondering what's around the corner at this point creatively. Are you directly or indirectly shying away from the mainstream?
Well, look, obviously when people listen to my music, and especially millennials, they'll say, this is not like what's being programmed on the radio. And, I've got a 14-year-old daughter, so I hear a lot of that music, and I wish I could program some of that stuff. There's some great music out there. I wish I could program stuff like Adele, I wish I could program stuff like The Killers, or like I said, I'm a huge fan of Kendrick Lamar, if you haven't guessed. Like how he can collide sounds and energy like he does is extraordinary to me. Or, any other artist that might have, I think, that I say that longevity factor built into their thing. Some artists, immediately, we're going to hear about them a long time. So, with my own music, I guess I am kind of an indie outsider person. But I think at the end of the day, whatever you're doing in whatever art form you're working in, if you're a writer or a painter or a sculptor or a podcaster, I think you have to make yourself happy, and just hope that the audience finds you, and maybe it'll take a while. I know it's taken me longer than a lot of people, because you can become an instant celebrity today just by being an Instagram person and promoting swag, but I think if you're a serious artist, you don't worry about that. You just worry about what you're not receiving, but I guess what you're receiving from the universe. What are you channeling from the universe?
Right.
I put it to you, Deanie. What are you channeling rather? I'm getting stuck on my own words. Vigilantes Radio, man. I mean, look, you're doing your own indie thing here. You're creating your own fan base. That is amazing.
Thank you.
Think about if you had to go the conventional route and wait for maybe that job in conventional radio, and maybe, you get it, maybe you don't get it, maybe you're an engineer. all those hurdles might not allow you to do what you're doing on your own terms.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Dusty, it's funny you mentioned that. We started the show with maybe 4 or 5 co-hosts, and the topics range from conspiracies to talking about movies, music. It was just a talk show, really. And our numbers were not so great. The co-hosts were not so great, but it worked for all of us. It was something made us happy. And then we started doing interviews. And, of course, I was the writer of the show, so I would have to write the script for everybody. And they didn't like it. But as soon as they left, the numbers started skyrocketing. I couldn't believe it.
See?
So I found a niche. Okay, let's do interviews.
There you go, man. And you're doing everyone and anyone, which is great.
Yes.
You're not just limiting it to one genre of music or one art form, or scientists, like you said, everyone. You want to talk about something, talk about it. I think everyone has a story. I say, you can be sitting. The cool thing about living in New York, an old timer once said, I can get on the bus in New York. I could ride down Fifth Avenue, and by the end of my ride, I could know the guy next to me, the woman next to me. I could know their story, because everyone has a story to share.
They do. So, since we're on stories, tell us about the work you've done on films.
Well, I've written a number of screenplays, not all of them, most of them not produced, a couple of indie movies. But I've been able to get a couple of songs into movies. One fun story is I'd written this song for this Stephen King. Most people probably haven't seen this movie, the Stephen King movie with Johnny Depp, called Secret Window, right?
Yeah.
And I had been hired by the director to be the music supervisor. And about 3 weeks into the project, he says, well, we're not going to have any music. Philip Glass, the great contemporary classical composer from New York City, is going to do the score. I said, and it didn't matter because I'd already been hired, and I think I got half the money up front for my payment. But we're going to need maybe a hip-hop track and an elevator scene when a messenger comes in. I said, look, man, I got a great idea for the end credit. I want to write this song called Secret Window. And he's like, well, I don't know, I don't know if we might have Phillips. I said, you know what, man, I'll pay for it. I'll record the track. And if you don't like it, that's cool. At least I've got a new song. Because I was so into the movie. Now, granted, I hadn't even seen any of the dailies from the movie. I was just going off the short story by Stephen King and kind of what the narrative of the film was. And the director, David Koepp, was like, okay, go ahead, man. Take a stab at it. So I had recorded the song Secret Window and pretty much played everything on it, I think, except for the conga. I played all the guitar parts and everything. And I brought the song to him, and he really thought it was cool. But then in the end of the day, they decided that Johnny Depp was going to sing a nursery rhyme for the end credits. So, sorry, no song in the movie. But I got a great track out of it, and I ended up recording my own version of a video for it, which is on my YouTube page, Puff Dusty at YouTube. Secret Window, and I got this incredible French model to be in it, and I shot it in black and white. We shot it actually at Gibson Guitar Studios here in New York, which is the old Hit Factory, where Michael Jackson and Springsteen and John Lennon and everyone recorded their music over the years. But Gibson Guitars had ended up leasing the studio, shut down, and Gibson Guitars had turned it into their own little playground. And we were able to talk one of the executives into letting us shoot the video in the basement there. Actually, that's where I did a lot of my podcast interviews, strangely enough. They were very cool about letting us do our podcast interview. I did the Kevin Bacon interview there, Derek Trucks from Tedeschi Trucks Band interview there, Sam Bush, Bob Costas I interviewed there. So it became kind of like our studio, and it was cool because we didn't have to pay for it. But that was the cool thing about the song. I write and record this song for this great movie, Secret Window, very quirky, cool Stephen King movie with Johnny Depp, and they decide that director's not going to use it, and I get to, it just worked itself out. So that was a good thing. And then in his next movie that he directed, Ghost Town with Ricky Gervais, he goes, I need a song for the radio. What do you have? And I sent him I kept sending him tracks. Like every day I'd send him a track. I go, David, check this track out, man. Nah, it's not right. It's not right. I said, I don't know, man. I have no idea what you're looking for. Here's a couple tracks that I recorded a couple of years ago. He goes, I love this track. And it was something that was like a demo. I didn't really think that much of this track. They go, no, this is perfect. This is exactly what we're looking for. So the crazy thing about the track is they didn't release a soundtrack to the movie. So often they release a soundtrack, and I thought, well, doggone it, I missed it again. They didn't use my song last movie. Now they're using my song, but there's no soundtrack. And people started emailing me. They found out, through the internet and stuff, like, hey, man, where can I get that song that you did for Ghost Town that was on the radio? I said, really? You're paying that close of attention? I didn't think that much of it. I thought it was like a little throwaway moment. And I thought, I got to release this thing. So I released it through CD Baby, which got it on iTunes and Spotify and Amazon. Next thing you know, I started, making some small minor dollars on it, which was cool. And obviously I got paid to have it in the movie, which was way cool because that's a much better payday, as you know, than just counting up the 0.00001 cent that you make on every digital play. But I'm still making residuals on that. So those were two examples where the serendipitous moment where it looked like a negative turned into a positive. And I think for a young songwriter, you just don't know if you might record something at home and not know where that song is going to go. You might not know where that podcast is going to go if you want to start your own podcasting thing, or you want to be a painter, where that picture may end up framed on someone's wall. I think you just have to be fearless and persistent. Just go out there and do it, and be true to yourself. Just listen to your own inner voice.
Yes, sir. And it's totally real, totally real. How long have you been playing for, and what kind of practice regimen do you take up now?
Well, I've been playing since high school, so that's over 30 years, and I try to play every day. I'm not a traditional, do my scale guy. I'm probably more like, okay, I've got, right now I'm looking at my desktop, right? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 songs on my desktop. So tomorrow I might work on 2 of them. I might work on lyrics of one, or I may just work on the melody of something else, or maybe I need a bridge on that song. So at any given time, I might work on the songs themselves. It might be 2 hours one day. It might be a half an hour the other day. It might be 3 hours. I don't really sit into a regimented schedule like I got to work 4 hours from 8 to noon. I'm going to work on this song. It sometimes for me, it's very much the vibe that I'm in. What do I feel at that moment, and what am I feeling with the connection to a specific song? So, for instance, I actually had enough material to release a double record for this new record. I thought, well, that's kind of pretentious. People really only listen to singles now, right? But I still had to get the music out. But I have all these other tracks left over, and I thought, all right, I've got this new track, and I just released this new song that's not on the new record for the NPR Tiny Desk concert called Pardon My Love, about domestic violence. And the song, we had to, according to the contest rules from NPR, you have to record the song in front of your desk or with a tiny desk near you, and kind of like, a la YouTube, release it on YouTube, and then they pick it up. So my cellist, Matt, my guitarist, John, and I, with me on the acoustic, recorded last week, Pardon My Love, this song, and we literally recorded it on my iPad with no embellishments, with any kind of audio interface or anything. We just I thought, it kind of captures the moment of what this song is all about, the organic nature of it. And at some point, I want to obviously record it in the studio. again, I don't know. It could be just me alone, or it could be with these guys. They bring a certain thing to it. But sometimes it's kind of neat to write a song one way and then present it another way.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a long-winded way of answering your question. Sorry, man. I get kind of off on these tangents. My apologies.
It works. It works. I enjoy these type of interviews, actually. The ones with, like, the 1 or 2 word answers.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, so moving on, I guess. And 5 minutes, the interview is over, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. All right, what do we talk about now? All right, let's go to music.
So, with the release of Counterwalling Towards the Light out now, I'm sure it's a very exciting time for you. It's a 6-1. Working, man. It's always great to be a working person in the industry or in the indie route, whichever an artist chooses. So how does a typical day for Dusty Wright starts and ends?
All right, so my dog usually needs a walk, and it's a great excuse to get into the park in the morning and get the blood flowing and the creativity, the stimulation of that fresh air. And I might do some exercise in the park, or I might come back and do some exercise. I do some yoga or some Tai Chi. Sometimes I'll do, some weight training or something else to kind of, just augment it with something else. I've been playing a lot of tennis the last couple of years, which I kind of like because it's mindless and it gets you into a Zen state. And then, I think and then I might throw on the news to see what's going on because it's such a crazy news cycle. But I've always been kind of a little news junkie, or sports, especially when Stephen A. Smith was on ESPN. I loved watching him and Skip Bayless go toe-to-toe. So sometimes I might have that on in the background with the volume down low. And in the event that I hear somebody talking about one of my beloved Cleveland teams, because I don't know if you know this, I'm a huge sports geek as much as music. And being the second most famous alumni of St. Vincent St. Mary's behind a Mr. LeBron James, albeit I graduated a few decades before LeBron, I take great pride in the fact that, the greatest basketball player on planet Earth is from my high school. Thank you very much. But so I got the sports thing going on. I might have the news. Then I might work on a review that I'm working on or a concept for a video. My day, I don't think it really ends until really I go to sleep. And so usually before I go to bed, I got to take the dog out. The dog's already been walked about 5 times before that last walk anyway. And that's a way to kind of decompress. And if I have any stamina at all, I like to read right before I pass out. So on my nightstand, I might have 2 or 3 books that I'm reading or magazines. And they can be a wide variety of subjects. There's always a UFO book. There might be a graphic novel. Like I reread Preacher recently. I'm sure you're hip to Preacher, right? Mm-hmm. You're into Preacher, yeah. My friend,
but I know about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a cool graphic novel. And Ozzy, one of my buddies, brought me Letter 44. It's another alien graphic novel series. It's just started about the new president finding out about aliens in a base. And really, really cool. I encourage it. I love a whole mixed bag of reading. It can be fiction, nonfiction. I reread Dracula last year, which was kind of cool. Or I might read something by Jonathan Lethem or Tom Robbins or something. There's somebody left a book on spirituality that I was reading. I thought, well, this is interesting, because I want to see this. This might inspire some kind of creativity for a song. Mm-hmm. So yeah, by the end of the day, after I've stretched myself way, way thin, and I try to do a little reading because I think it's important to kind of decompress from the digital stuff. And for a while, I was kind of stuck on all right, let's check Facebook and let's check all this stuff on my phone. I thought, man, that you can't ramp down from that if you're trying to sleep. So I try to leave those things now, either in the kitchen or in my office, my cell phone or my iPad, and just have a book or 3 next to my nightstand.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Is the Preacher novel the same as the Preacher TV show?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, Seth Rogen. Yeah. So, yeah, the Preacher, It's one of the most audacious graphic novels I think I've ever read. And I like Watchmen, too. I thought, the Watchmen movie was so-so, but that Watchmen graphic novel is tremendous. I love comic books. I love the Marvel Universe. I'm hoping the DC Universe can catch up. I don't know. After the Dark Knight series, it's been kind of touch and go. But there's a lot of really, we have Forbidden Comics here in New York. I always take my son there. We're always looking at exchanging comic books and stuff. I'm a geek. What can I say? I'm really, at the end of the day, I'm a geek. My wife calls me a geek. I love music. I love comic books. I love sci-fi. I love aliens. I love pop culture. I don't know. Something to do, right?
Yeah, it is. And I'm a geek right along with you. As
awesome.
You heard my corny DC joke in the beginning, calling you a metahuman.
Well, we're all metahumans, man. We are all Devo.
Yeah. But I think DC has an advantage over Marvel with the TV show series. Whereas in Marvel...
Well, Gotham is pretty... Yeah, no, you're right. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'd rather watch Gotham than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I must be honest with you, yeah. And although I have to say, Daredevil's pretty good, though. Daredevil, it's not bad. Luke Cage isn't bad. But Gotham has really become special the last couple of years, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think Marvel has an advantage over DC in the movies. Like with the Avengers and X-Men and the Spider-Man,
I thought Ant-Man was genius. I loved Ant-Man. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy, Deadpool.
Yes.
Those movies with that humor edge, man. Ant-Man was hilarious. And Guardians of the Galaxy, man, with the 70s soundtrack, man, that was crazy.
Oh, yeah. So where do you find that you are the most creative? Like, where is the best setting for you to just sit, relax, and make some really cool music?
Probably here in my office, overlooking the street here in New York City. Although, there are times when, like, maybe I'm on the subway and something might, you hear a snippet. I mentioned this before, a snippet of somebody's conversation. You might be eavesdropping or something, but I think kind of if I'm cloistered in my own little office, it's tiny and it's crammed full of records and amps and guitars and stuff. I feel like my zodiac sign, like I'm a crab, Cancer the crab. I'm in my own little shell in here, and I'm kind of isolated from it. And it's funny you pick that up because I didn't really pick that up on myself, but I kind of operate that way. And then I bring it out, share it after that, and I'm really worried, like, will people, after I've been in my little cave here, my little shell, is it any good? Right. Do people really care, or am I just delusional?
Nah, man, it is really good. So let's talk about some early memories. What's your earliest music-related childhood memory?
Oh, man, my earliest one is I remember a neighbor behind us was getting rid of, like, the kids were older, and somebody gave me one of those little portable record players with all these scratchy 45s, like with Three Little Pigs and stuff, like these nursery rhyme records. They might have been like white vinyl and red vinyl and stuff, 45s. That's my earliest music memory, where, like, oh, this is music. Oh, okay, it makes you want to dance. It makes you want to sing and, makes you want to react. But then, as I had mentioned earlier, my cousins who were older than me, they were like 10, 15 years older than me, were turning me on to all this crazy music. They were in college, and they were playing, like they're giving me, like I said, the Temptations, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. My cousin Vince would turn me on to this music, and they'd come back from these concerts. Oh, we just saw the Rolling Stones. Oh, we just saw Sly and the Family Stone. Oh, we just saw blah, blah, blah. And it was really infectious and contagious, to know that, oh, the people that I'm hearing on the radio, you can actually go see them in concert. And wow, okay, let's go to a concert.
Yeah.
But then when you're a little bit older, going to that, actually, I think the first concert I went to, my parents took me, sadly. I was like 12, 13, and I was chaperoned by my parents. It was The Fifth Dimension. Kind of corny, but cool. Pretty safe R&B pop music.
Yeah. Okay. As far as I can tell from what I'm reading and researching online, Dusty, you also reference your music to be a part of the metaphysical Americana genre. Now, I might be reaching there, but you can correct me, of course. The genre, which might be a blend of alternative folk and country. Now, normally I try not to dwell on genre-related questions too much, but since yours are fairly unique to our podcast here at Vigilantes Radio, I figured I'd dig into this mystery just a little bit more. So our listeners are sometimes well-versed in folk, rock, country, I'm sure, and at least telling by the emails they write. But the Americana part, well, only so many people out there really dig into the music enough to know about the impact, the influence, and sheer amount of it there truly is out there. So as best as you can, maybe put a definite stamp on what Americana is really all about, what it sounds like, what instrument it incorporates, and how your own music relates to the genre.
Great question. And I get this all the time because when you drop the term Americana, to me, Americana is a combination of folk, country, maybe a little bluegrass, definitely the blues and rock and roll. And, when you think of Americana music, Elvis Presley, his early stuff was Americana music. He was taking R&B stuff and mixing it with hillbilly music, country music, to create early rock and roll. If you take early Johnny Cash, the same thing, taking this kind of hillbilly music and marrying it to black culture and creating something new. Americana music could also be the Grateful Dead. And the Grateful Dead, even though they were kind of a psychedelic jam band, they played country music. They played the blues. They played bluegrass. They were really into the American music. They even played jazz, So Americana to me is really this distillation of these musical forms that are very organic and indigenous to America. Certainly a folk base, certainly a country base, certainly an R&B base in there, because you can hear those influences in the songs, and bands like Wilco, I think, are big purveyors of Americana. Bob Dylan, he might be the godfather of Americana music. He went from folk into this folk rock, into this distillation of Americana music himself. So I'd say probably Bob Dylan might be the godfather of Americana. Everyone calls him a singer-songwriter, but and also I think the other thing about Americana music, it's kind of timeless. It's a genre of music that even though people might not initially understand what the genre is or what it represents, it's a timeless kind of music. And there's a lot of music that kind of gets clustered underneath it, So I always say, like, where's the, with the checkbox, like, what kind of music do you do? Do you do folk? Do you do rock? Do you do R&B? Do you do dance? Do you do electronica? Where's the Americana tag, man? And the metaphysical thing is, other than just like really looking at life from that metaphysical standpoint. Like I said, I'm influenced by UFOs. I'm influenced by the meta-spiritual stuff, the meta-men, if you will. Those things that are really granular in our vocabulary: life, death, the philosophy of life, the philosophy of depression, the philosophy of the positive thinking. Everyone, I guess, needs a hook.
That is,
you need a hook.
So cool. And as far as the recording sessions for Caterwauling Towards the Light album is concerned, and knowing that you already went into this with a ton of engineering experience, was there anything new for you to learn in the process this time around that will come in handy for you when recording the next one?
Absolutely. And that's a great question for all of us. You never stop learning. Yes. I have a friend who co-wrote Life is Hard with me, my friend Martin. I see him just about every morning we walk our dogs. This guy was a heavy musician in the 70s and 80s in New York. Wrote a lot of jingles. He's a guitar teacher now. He's a very, very wise dude. And we talk about microphones all the time. We talk about preamps. We talk about, like, what's the best microphone for a guy who has a baritone voice like me versus somebody that might have a soprano voice or an alto, or mezzo-soprano voice. And we talk about these things. And, do you like recording analog? Do you like recording digitally? If you use digital, what plugins do you like using? So he and I get into arguments. I'm serious. We'll get into an argument like, I found this ribbon mic. It was $400. It's really cool. He's like, no, man. You got to get, an SM blah, blah, blah. It's a $5,000 mic. It's the best sounding mic. And we've actually done some of these shootouts where, like, we recorded my vocal on one mic, and then I'll come back and record it on another mic, and then we'll A/B it. So, I think you always have to challenge yourself with new technology, with the old technology. And like anything, there's a new way of looking at, that perspective of life if there's something new that you present yourself and that you challenge yourself with. So be open to it, If you were to say to me, hey, man, have you checked out the new Shure microphone? I mean, I don't like Shure microphones. Like, no, dude, you should check it out. Did you know? I found out something recently, like, Michael Jackson on Off the Wall used like a rather inexpensive Shure microphone. I was blown away to find out. Bono uses like a Beta 58 on some of his vocals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm like, really? Yeah, during playback, he's like, he's screaming into a Beta 58 in the control room. So, you pick up things from engineers and stuff, or you go into studios, or just talking to anyone who's involved with music. There's always new tricks or new techniques. Somebody once told me that Tom Waits, they were in a studio session in Santa Monica, and Tom Waits literally was lying on the floor, and he had the microphone inside of a guitar case, and the case was cracked maybe an inch, and he was doing his vocals laying down like that with the microphone, jammed into the guitar case because he was looking for a certain tone. I thought, well, there's a guy that can afford, any kind of mic. Cool that he is pushing himself to try something that crazy to get an effect for a song.
Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about some obstacles that you were maybe faced with, when making this new record. And how have you and your team at Pet Rock worked your way around them to bring all this great music to life?
Well, first and foremost, you always have the obstacle of time and then the obstacle of money, because when you're bringing musicians in, or, every musician deserves to get paid. So even my friends who play on the record, I try to get them some money, or at least buy them dinner or something, like people should get paid for their services. Or if they help write a song, they should get some of the publishing. Those are the obstacles that I think are very easily overcome. The obstacles that are more difficult is actually having the opportunity to share your music with an audience like I'm doing right now. So what I did with this record is I saved some money and I put it aside for publicists because I thought, what, man, I've always tried to do it myself. Maybe I need to have a publicist really help me. No, actually, I take that back. The last record, the record before, I had a publicist as well. But I thought I was going to try a new publicist for this record. And I'd like the records that I was getting from this publicist. I thought, well, that's a good sign because she's sending me Americana music. So she obviously knows the genre. So she obviously has, a pool of writers and podcasters and radio people that might like my style of music since she's kind of in the genre. And so the obstacle of finding the right publicist, was kind of serendipitous for me. Sometimes it might not be so obvious for someone. But I think the biggest obstacle for me really releasing the record was just getting it finally released. I had to finally let go of that, Deanie. Okay, man, I lost my father. I lost my brother. This is an homage to them. I'm sorry if nobody else likes it. I had to do it. That was my catharsis. I had to get that. That was my way of grieving. I had to get this out. And I don't, I'm very pleased that you like it. That means a lot to me. I'm pleased when anyone likes any of my music, even if I'm playing live and one person applauds. Connecting with somebody, that's an obstacle. Because you want to be recognized for what you're doing.
Yes, sir. All right, so tell us about "Life Is Hard," which you just mentioned, and it was co-written by yourself and also John Butler.
Martin John Butler, yeah.
Yeah, Martin John Butler. And about "I Am Not Willing," which was also co-written by yourself again, and Peter Lewis. What were they able to bring to the recording sessions that you hadn't thought of or couldn't have achieved on your own? And how did you end up working together?
Well, with the Peter Lewis track is actually not mine. It's an old Moby Grape cover from the 60s. But what I did with that track, and it was a piano track when I first heard it. So I don't know Peter, so I had to clear the publishing through his publishing house. And I decided to tweak the melody slightly using guitar and cello as opposed to piano, because it was a very dirgy piano. So in that sense, I didn't have to worry about what he was going to say other than as long as the publishers got their money. But I still wanted to resonate with people, so I felt like, well, it's an obscure 60s song anyway, late or early 70s song, rather. Moby Grape was kind of an obscure band, and I really didn't know them when I was growing up. I came to their music later in life. As a matter of fact, I was interviewing Robert Plant like 10, 15 years ago, and he had brought them up to me, and I thought, I better check these guys out. If Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin is name-checking them, they must be cool. And so I picked up a compilation by that band, and that song was on there by Peter Lewis, and I always liked it, and I thought, God, it would be cool to do it on the guitar. And so Matt and I came up with the guitar part, and then Matt kind of doubled it on the cello. But Life Is Hard was a lot more personal because I started working on this song, and my friend Martin, my friend who walks the dogs in the morning with me and argues about, what's the best microphone to use. I had been working on this song. He's like, no, man, you need a bridge here. I'm like, what do you mean I need a bridge? No, you got to get to a pre-chorus. I'm like, what do you mean I need a pre-chorus? So we started fooling around with the song, and this is before anything had happened to my brother. So the song had been started, and, we were getting into this whole thing about why is life, I don't want to look at life sunny. I want to look at it the darker side. Life is hard, man. Life is not easy, And we started working on the song, and I got it into a certain shape. And then my brother got in this accident, and I kind of put the song on hold. I didn't really think about it. Martin and I were going to record it, and my brother had been in a coma for 7 weeks. I had come back to New York because I had to go to Ohio to deal with a lot of stuff. And the song then became like his anthem. I said, Marty, this is my brother's song, man. This song found us. I don't know how, but it's like his spirit is living through this song. And, my brother rode a motorcycle. He was in this bad motorcycle crash, that put him into a coma, and the whole thing just kind of fell into lockstep, man. It was just like the thing became crystallized, And I think Martin pushing me into thinking about a chorus, this big grand chorus, life is harder when you're halfway there, that made sense. Life gets harder when you're halfway there. And that was just like, wow, okay. That's my brother. Those were the demons he had to wrestle with. Yeah. As do a lot of people. We all do. We all wrestle with those things from time to time. So in that instant, it was pretty easy. Initially I was fighting with Martin about like where it should go, but that's part of the relationship we have. We love to tug of war with, all this stuff. And I have to say, we got another song that we've been working on recently that I hope we can get to the next record, because it was the same kind of thing. Like, dude, you got to simplify this, man. You're getting too complex. Simplify, man. You like to write simpler. And he showed me the other day I was working on another song, which is on my desktop, called Fade Away. And he goes, he loved the song. He's like, you got the melody, just stretch those notes out on the second line. And that one little twist made the song. It really did, I have to say. So, hey, who knows? Who knows where the inspiration comes from, or when you can find find a partner, a songwriting partner or a musician that can take your song and make it better. That's good. That's a good thing.
Oh, yeah. And as far as the production, engineering, and recording and all that's concerned with caterwauling towards the light, on the studio side of life, how much did you have a hand in it all, Dusty?
Well, about half the tracks were done in studios. Let's see. I did one track. I did Fly with Sammy Marandino, who is Cyndi Lauper's drummer. He has this really cool studio in Harlem, and I'd always wanted to work with Sammy. And I'd run into him on the subway one day, and I said, I have this song, and I need your drums on it. And I was just kind of bold. And I know that the guy's super busy, and I didn't know if he was touring with Cyndi at the time, but I knew he had this really cool studio, and I was itching to record at his studio. And it's in this old cool brownstone, and he's got his drums in the basement with his recording studio. And then, he sets up the mic with my guitar in his living room. And then, the bass player is in the other room. So that track was done there. Weather This Storm was done at a studio out in Silver Lake in L.A. at my friend Gio Loria. He's this amazing upright bass player and an amazing amp builder. He builds really cool custom guitar amps. And I happened to be out west doing some stuff, and we had worked on another track on my last record, and I said, Gio, can I come by and track this track with you? I need your upright on it. And the next thing I know is we recorded like his upright bass, my guitar, my acoustic guitar. Oh, actually, no, it was his vintage Martin guitar. It was like a 1938 Martin D28, like this killer guitar that was his grandfather's or something. Like I didn't even feel worthy to play this guitar. It was so cool. And then he was like, dude, let me add some drums to this. I'm like, go for it, man. All right, I'm going to add a guitar part. Then he added a tele guitar part to it. And then I brought that track back to New York, and I asked my friend Dave to come over to my place and lay down his slide guitar track on it. And then the coolest thing happened. I got my friend Jay Stoller, who is my favorite male vocalist in New York and singer-songwriter, to do the co-vocals with me on it. And Jay, he can sing circles around me. And I said, Jay, just do what you feel, man. I'm not gonna edit you, man. Just hear the lyrics. This is what the song's about. Go for it. And Jay dropped the most beautiful vocal on it, man. He's like Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates, So that track was done very little. Just Jay's vocal and a slide guitar part were done here in my studio. The rest was done on the West Coast. And, there were other tracks, like the drums got dropped at 30 Below, which is a really cool New York studio on 30th Street. We did drum tracks there for about 4 tracks. I did some vocals down at Martin's place with like one of these crazy $4,000 mics because he convinced me that I had to redo these vocals. We had argued and argued. I'm like, no, man, I'll do the vocals at my place. Did some of the vocals. Sonia Hensley and Queen Esther did vocals at my place on tracks. So this was there. Look, there's a lot to be said to go into a studio like Electric Lady Studios, where Hendrix's studio, or Magic Shop, which is now in Brooklyn, or some of these other really well-known studios. But you're going to pay a lot more, right? And you're on the clock. And when you're on the clock, you got to be tight because you're burning through your capital. And if you have the money, God bless you. If the labels are paying for it, cool. And the budget's no big deal, that's cool because you can keep coming back and adding and adding. But this thing was kind of like, each song found its place at the right studio at the right time. And because I took 2 years to make the record, I wasn't really sweating when it was ultimately going to come out.
Right. Okay. Dusty, when it comes to the Americana part of country music, what would you say is important to you on a lyrical level?
Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. Country music is very simple, the lyrics, right? My lyrics might be simple, but they could be very vague, and I like doing that. That's a little trick, is like keeping them vague. Like, is it the female or the male singing this song? What's the gender? What's the message? So, but the simplicity of the lyric, like that great Willie Nelson or Johnny Cash or Chris Christopherson. That country music stuff lyrically can be very simple and straight ahead. And I really like that. I've always been a fan of writing in that style. I'm very envious of people like Elvis Costello, who are just, or Dylan, who can just, or hip-hop artists who can just roll this stuff off. And you just like, it's machine gun rapid fire, like, wow. I wish I was that heavy with the lyrics. My thing is much simpler,
And speaking of that, words are one thing, but they often need the right emphasis, movement, or moment to really pack the weight of their intentions in any given song. So who lets Dusty know when the vocal flow, delivery, and performance came out 100%, or is that something only you can judge?
Boy, I tell you, I don't think I'm ever happy with that. There's always something I think I would have changed on a vocal. Sometimes, and you'll do a scratch vocal on a track, and somebody will go, "That's perfect," and then I'll go, "God, I hate that vocal. I don't think I conveyed the emotion of that vocal." So that's really tricky for me. That's something that I sweat more than anything in the whole world. When I do a vocal, like just. And then what will happen, and I've heard other artists say this too, is like when you start getting comfortable with the song and you start playing it out live, the song changes slightly. Your vocal delivery changes slightly. So that's one where sometimes I wish maybe I would have sat on the song a little bit more before I recorded it.
Yeah.
So I don't think like to answer your question, there's always things you find in a track like you wish you would have maybe tweaked slightly, a little differently. Maybe you would have played the guitar part slightly different, or maybe you would have added a background vocal where there wasn't one, or taken one off where there was. Yeah, no, I don't know. I just, I guess, you give birth to them, you have to let them grow on their own. That's what somebody once said.
Definitely. So what else can we look forward to from the release of Caterwauling Towards the Light? I've seen that you should be putting out a VR music video soon, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Can you go into details about that?
Yeah, so the last song on the record is a song called Fly. I had been hiking upstate, up in the Adirondacks Mountains, and I just climbed the summit of this mountain. Now, the East Coast mountains are certainly not like climbing the Swiss Alps or the Rockies or, trekking in Nepal, but it was still a pretty vigorous hike. And when I got to the top, it was incredibly windy, and my wife was freaking out. Don't get too close to the edge. There's like sheer rock, cliff. And I was at the top, and the wind was blowing really, really hard. And there was a crow up there, huge crow, and it was making the loudest crowing noise I've ever heard, and very unique sounding too. Like, I've heard crows in New York City and stuff. This thing sounded like someone's soul. And I thought, wow, this is a song moment here. And I got to write about this. I've got to write this song about flying, flying. This crow is just circling in this huge wind. I don't even know how the crow was made. Actually, the crow was kind of standing still. The wind was blowing so hard. It's just kind of like, looked like it was on a balloon right above me, or like tethered on a line or something. So I got back to the city 2 days later, and I started working on the track, or the song rather, and I came up with this very bouncy melody. It was kind of like a John Mellencamp or, this crazy folk pop thing. And I started getting a handle on the lyrics, and then I read this really tragic story in the New York Post about a young lady who had taken her life. It was on the cover. It was a cover story. And I started reading the story, and that story really, really impacted how I looked at the song then. I thought, well, this is interesting. Some people look at their challenges in life as a glass being half full, and others who might have depression and serious mental issues can't climb out, can't climb over the hurdle, can't climb that mountain. They can't get out of their own way. Why is that? Why do we have that duality? So this song Fly became this kind of exercise in that duality. But I wanted to have I wanted to maintain the upbeat nature of the song and the melody. So it's very upbeat, very short song. It's about 2 minutes and 18 seconds long, I think. And I had been talking to a woman who was working in virtual reality. She's a director in virtual reality. She shot something with Obama. She was very cool. I said, Steph, do you think we're ready for virtual reality music videos yet? She said, absolutely. I said, I've got this song that I think would be very cool. This song, Fly. What do you think? She said, she listened to it, called me or emailed me a few days later. She goes, yeah, this is pretty interesting. What do you want to do with this? I said to her, well, what if we used this virtual reality as a way to kind of fight depression and break the stigma of suicide prevention? There's a lot of people who don't want to talk about it, even in your own immediate families, about these dark corners that exist. So what if we could create a virtual reality video for this tune? Wouldn't that be great? She said, yeah. She goes, who's going to pay for it? I said, well, I don't know. What if we try to do our own fundraiser, our own crowdfunding thing, Mm-hmm. So just coincidentally, I'd run into an ex-girlfriend of mine who had lost a loved one close to her by suicide. And I told her what I was working on. I had no idea that she had lost a loved one that way. And she said, oh, my God, this sounds amazing. What do you want to do with it? I said, well, I want to do this crowdfunding campaign to see if we can raise a very modest sum of money, like $40,000. And Stephanie will work on it for free. She'll direct it. She's going to storyboard the song. And let's see if we can get that finished. So this project, we've put up a website called silenceisnotgolden.nyc. Silenceisnotgolden.nyc. And we started as tax-deductible donation, started taking whatever people want to donate to get this video made, and I'm hoping we can get something rolling in the next couple of months. We've been reaching out to some corporations. Obviously, they could write a check tomorrow. I even talked to a couple of music publishing companies about selling them the publishing rights to the song or sharing the publishing rights for the song to get this project rolling. Because I think a good video can really impact, and virtual reality is really starting to catch fire. I think it has potential, Like anything, I think it'll happen organically. I don't want to rush it, get too far ahead of ourselves. And I think the right people are kind of coming to the table. I just met another woman who is involved with healthcare and helping those who are, challenged by depression and suicidal thoughts. I don't know. I think it's, when you're giving back like this, I think it kind of works itself out, I hope.
Yeah. All right. So, got any more plans for another single or video combination to come out from the album, or are you heading straight into another project?
No, I'd like to ride this one out a little bit. I think I'd like to get a video for my brother's song "Life Is Hard." I think I actually just randomly, as it happens with me often, I ran into a young lady the other day. I was having a coffee, and turns out she's a choreographer, and she's looking to make a name for herself in the city. She had just met with Mark Morris, who is like one of the premier choreographers here in New York, actually in the world. And she was looking to commission some music for a new dance piece she's looking to create. So I said, look, here's my new album. I happen to have one of my download cards with me. I said, let me know if anything resonates with you. And lo and behold, the next day I got an email from her. She goes, I would love to try to choreograph your song All Revved Up. And I thought that was an odd choice. I thought, wow, it's interesting that she connected with that song. I would have thought she would have gone for one of the mournful ballads or something. But she liked this song. I said, yeah, absolutely. I'd be flattered if you wanted to choreograph something to one of my songs. So then I started thinking, well, that would be cool if she does. Then we could shoot a music video for it. And using contemporary modern dance, it might make it very compelling, to see how you could capture that dynamic, maybe using drones or something, we get an overhead view. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that will go. So, my immediate plans are to try to, break new grounds with video and virtual reality with this music and get people to hear it, cast a wider net by doing shows like yourself, getting people to pay attention to the music, getting people to talk about their own depression, talking about their own issues. Music can be very healing, as we know. And then I think, maybe, because I have all this new material that I want to work on, maybe by November I'll release my next record. Because as I said, it was going to be a double record anyway. So I think if I give myself another 6-7 months working with this record, I'd be ready to get another one done.
All right, definitely. So, what makes an album a versatile one? And in the contrast, what keeps it all cohesive and truly a part of the overall vibe that you're looking to make an impact on?
That's a good question. I think there is a cohesion, as I'd mentioned, if you do your record all in one studio, because there's a vibe in one studio. This record didn't, but I think the cohesion for this record was the theme, around loss and life and acceptance and the roller coaster ride of life. So this is, each little song is its own little vignette and story about life. So in that sense, it worked that way by having that kind of diversity and the diversity of the sound of each song. But, I think the most important thing is for the artist to have an authentic voice. And, so if John Legend's doing an album, he could record it in 10 different locations, but his voice is so authentic, it doesn't matter, right? You'll feel that connection. And oftentimes the way the record is mixed, for sure. Yeah, the way the record is mixed. I work with a guy named Dave Lee. He gets my music. He knows how to mix my music. He gives, even though each song is different, he creates a mix that keeps it cohesive, like you were referring to, as do other mixers. And then when you get it mastered, really important. So when you get a record mastered, the mastering engineer should know your music. And I use a guy named Alan Duche from West Side Music, upstate New York. He used to work at Sterling Sound here in New York. And he's mastered thousands of albums, from the Bad Brains to the most indie music you've never heard of. And Alan has got a very interesting take on mastering. He will all the time give you mastering A and mastering B, and then you get to pick what you think sounds best for your music. You don't always get that with a mastering lab.
Right.
So he's like, okay, Dusty, here's one song mastered 2 different ways. You tell me which way you want to have your record mastered. I played it for my friend Martin. I played it for Dave, the engineer. Played it for another friend who is a guitarist in my band. And we all unanimously, and it was my choice ultimately, had picked mastering B. We A-B'd them, and we liked mastering B. And so he mastered this record using whatever compression techniques and tools and plugins that he uses, or analog equipment. So, yeah, that adds to the cohesion as well.
Yes, sir, it does. So after the music break, it'll be time for our usual tradition. It is called the Hot Seat, and our fans love this part of the segment, of course, along with the actual interview, but the audience gets to hear either some vocals, poem, inspirational speeches, written work, spoken word, freestyle raps. Yeah, Dusty Wright with a freestyle rap, like Kendrick Lamar. Hey, you never know. Or recite lyrics, musical tributes, karaoke, jokes, stories, or live instruments from our special guests. Well, you never know what these creative minds and vessels will produce in the spotlight. And tonight, yes, tonight, we'll find out if Dusty Wright have what it takes to be put on the spot, a test of his true artistry, and maybe even some hidden talents. And we have a few questions also from our audience in the chat room, so we'll get to those as well. In the meantime, sit back, grab some popcorn, and listen to this really cool tune by Dusty Wright. It is called I Am Not Willing.
Always faithful, she'd return. Said she loves me, and I could always come to her. She can't imagine how another lover can make her turn. And I'm so grateful that I'm still willing to have her home. And I'm so grateful that I'm still willing to have her home. She won't forget me when she's gone. She thinks that later we can pick up the pieces and carry on. I forgive her, still not suspecting she could be wrong. Now I'm so grateful, no longer willing to have her home. Now I'm so grateful, no longer willing to have her home.
And we are back again. That was Dusty Wright. I Am Not Willing. All right, it is that time for the hot seat.
Uh-oh.
Oh, what do you have for us?
I'm going to do a new song, man. What do you think?
Awesome. That is awesome.
So anyway, this song, as I mentioned earlier, we did it for the Tiny Dance Contest. It's about domestic violence. Can you hear that? Can you hear that guitar? You can hear that?
Oh, yeah.
So this song came together rather quickly, I think. And it definitely will fall right in with the Americana thing. I think people will hear the simplicity of the lyrics. The melody's pretty straightforward. And the message, while dark, also is uplifting. So pay attention to the lyrics, people. It's called Pardon My Love, and it goes like this. Heard you were running scared for what they said I'd done, but I would kill again if it would save our love. That bastard had it coming for hitting you time and again. So if they find me guilty, let them hang me for my love.
I dream about you each lonely, lonely night. These prison walls will never put things right. I pray for strength from heaven far above, and I count the hours till they part in my love. When they feed me my last meal and the preacher reads my rights, will I bend in redemption when I hear the final bell? I dream about you each lonely, lonely night. These cinder walls will never put things right. I pray for strength from heaven far above, and I count the hours till they part in my love. They part in my love. When they drag me through our town, will I hear your anguish cries? Slip a noose around my neck. Please don't watch me die. I dream about you each lonely night in hell. The flames of sin will never block your spell. I pray for strength from God high above, and I count the hours till you part in my love. Part in my love. Part in my love. Part in my love.
Oh my landlord! I have to have that song added to my collection.
Well, it's on YouTube right now for the Tiny Desk concert. If you go to my YouTube channel, Puff Dusty, you'll see it right in the front of the page. Pardon My Love. And I got Matt on cello and John on 12-string on that as well. And yeah, that song came together pretty quickly. And for some reason, it was kind of one of those songs I had kind of written when this record was nearly finished, and I had toyed with the idea of maybe recording it for the record because I'd written it just a couple of months ago. But first time we played it, got a really great reaction from the audience. I thought, well, that's a good sign. So that's a set keeper. So the guys love playing the song too, which is great. And obviously the story is what it is. It's pretty hard to, and looking at the domestic violence aspect of it, like what would you do to stand up to somebody who was, beating down your man or woman? How far would you go to protect them? Or let's say it was your daughter. I wanted to put somebody, I wanted to give it a different spin as opposed to just being the person who is the victim, because everyone's a victim in it, right? Everyone has. There's the ripples from domestic violence, I think, affect so many different people on so many different levels. But then, the Americana, doing it in this Americana style, the simplicity of the style, I always say, and maybe this might be indigenous to Americana music too, if the song sounds good on an acoustic guitar, chances are it's going to sound good with a band.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I'll check it out on YouTube. But if you ever decide to put it on wax, please let Deanie know. I will purchase that record, even the demo version. Yes.
So we're gonna get. I'll send you a demo as soon as I have one, man. Don't worry.
No, don't.
I'll send you a swag bag. Don't worry, man. You're in.
No,
you're in like Flint, Deanie. Don't worry, buddy. I got you covered. You're getting a swag. You're getting a swag bag tomorrow. I'm mailing it tomorrow, man.
All right, Dusty. Since he won't let me buy that record, I'll buy the whole entire album. All right, that's fair.
Thank you, sir.
This is some good stuff. All right, so let's take some questions here. Let's see. Start at the top because they were just pounding them out. Like I can just read them along with my own questions. All right, so let's see. Who is this? Okay, Jeff wants to know if you could have any style of music that you wanted to play. Well, let me rephrase that. If you could do any style of music that you wanted to play and be skilled to play it, what genre would you be in?
Jazz, man. Definitely jazz. Good question, Jeff. Jazz to me is just, man, I went to see Jeff Tain Watts last week. I'm always going to see music, obviously. I'm in New York. You have to share. Some musicians don't like sharing their time with other musicians. So my friend Bill called me. He goes, I'm taking my wife to see Jeff Tain Watts. Jeff Tain Watts was Wynton Marsalis's drummer for years. He's got his own project. And he had John Coltrane's son, Rave Coltrane, on sax, who is a serious, John Coltrane was the dude, right? And Rave's just as great. And he had three other players with him, and he played at this jazz club in New York called Blue Smoke. And I just sit there, man. When I watch these jazz guys go, I am just like, I want to be those guys, man. I want to be those guys that can just improv like out of their minds. I'm so envious of that, Jeff. Those guys are serious. And I wish I could hip hop rap too, I don't know, white guys can't jump. They can't. Well, some white guys can rap, but
Oh, a lot of white guys
Beastie Boys, rap. Yeah, Beastie Boys, Mac Lowe, there's some guys can do it. Just kidding. But no, jazz for me would be like if I could just crush on a sax or something. Yeah, man. Tenor sax, alto. Yeah, jazz.
Okay. Mary XX wants to know, what was the best advice you were ever given?
The best advice I was ever given, I'll never forget this day. I was sitting with Stu Fine, who started Wild Pitch Records, which was Gangstar's very first label. Remember Gangstar? Jazzmatazz, DJ Guru. Remember those guys? Chill Rob G. Remember those guys? And we were sitting with this dude, and he said, boys, I'm going to give one piece of advice to you. Know the rules of the game. You might not like the rules, but know the rules of the game. So, for instance, if you're playing baseball, you might not like baseball, but you got to know the rules. And that's what it's all about. I was like, okay, now I'm more confused. But no, it actually makes a lot of sense. Like, you might not agree to the rules, but you got to play by the rules of whatever thing you're in. So if you know music has certain rules, you get out there and play, man. Get out there and play some ball. Get out there and play some music.
All right. Kig Rock 2020 wants to know, what is your perfect pizza?
My perfect pizza is very thin crust, crispy on the bottom, a little fresh mozzarella, some great tomato sauce. I like mine a little sweeter, and some oregano, garlic, fresh garlic. Boom, I'm good. But it has to be crispy. I like the crispy crust.
All right, cool. Tommy wants to know the first song that you ever sung. Oh, he's added another part. Hold on. And wrote. First song you ever sung that you wrote.
Written and recorded? Or just the first song I ever wrote?
Ever wrote.
The first song I ever wrote, I had a band called The Trolls, It was me and my friend Dee Dee, and we wrote children's songs for adults. And I think the first song I wrote for that band was the Dinosaur song. Yeah, the Dinosaur song.
Oh,
One
wow.
day I will record that for you, Deanie. That's a treat. I wrote the Dinosaur song, the Piranha song, the Potato song. Everything was something, the something song in the title. Yeah, the Potato song, the Dinosaur song, the Troll song. Yeah, the Dinosaur song, which is actually, it was an Americana song. I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but, and I used to play it for kids. I remember my nieces would make me play the Piranha song for them every chance they got.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, we are running out of time, so we are here at our open floor. And thank you guys for those questions. And I'm sorry that I didn't get to read them all. I'm sure I could hire all you guys as, question writers. They're so great. And you guys are so great. But, time is ticking. So here's our open floor for you, Dusty. Your opportunity right here, right now, to say anything at all to your old fans and maybe your new fans here tonight.
I would say that be true to yourself always. Really pursue your own muse. Don't let people tell you that you can't be happy in life. It's really hard, I think, to find your inner voice, whatever it may be. If you're a school teacher, if you're an accountant, if you're a mechanic. If that's your vocation in life, man, live it and breathe it and love what you're doing. Because I think there are a lot of people that get stuck in a rut and they don't love what they're doing. Deanie, I know you love what you're doing, man. It comes through the airwaves. I think you would agree with me. Find that niche. Sometimes it's not, you don't find it immediately, but don't be afraid not to try something. My father once said to me, and it was his way of like patting me on the back. He goes, I've never met a guy that's had more failures, but that keeps getting up and keeps getting after it again. And I think for me, if I could convey that wisdom to my son, it's like, don't be afraid to fail, because it just means that you're trying something new, right? And you just haven't reached the next thing yet that might make you happy or might bring you some success. And it doesn't have to necessarily be monetary success. It's like, is it nourishing for your soul and your heart?
Definitely right. All right. And guys, I just purchased this album, Caterwauling Towards the Light.
Oh, yeah, we should say that you can get all my music, if I may shamelessly plug myself here, Deanie, DustyWright.com, WRIGHT, DUSTY, Of course, you can find it on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, eMusic, CD Baby, Bandcamp, SoundCloud. What am I missing? Napster. I'm sure there's some obscure guys hacking it in Russia for all I know. Yeah.
And that is exactly what I did just now, guys. I went over to his website. On the music, there were all the albums and links, and I just clicked the Amazon one, and bam. And I have one click on Amazon. I love it so much. So
isn't one click the best, man?
Yeah.
It is the best. I've been buying vinyl again, dude. What did I just bought some vinyl yesterday? One clicked. My wife's like, why are you bringing vinyl into the house, man? I love music. Come on, why are you asking me? You know why. I bought a Miles Davis record. Come on. You cannot turn Miles Davis away.
You cannot. All right, man. I just want to thank you for the great music that you make, man. It was a privilege discovering some songs of yours, and now having it in my collection. I can't wait for that demo to come out. In the meantime, I'll just tune into your YouTube and play it ridiculously. So if your numbers start to go up, it's me, okay?
Deanie, I'm still sending you swag, so you got to email me your address because you got to get the first 5 records. You got the new one, but there's 5 before that. So I'm sending those 5 plus a couple of other treats.
All right, cool.
So make sure you get us your mailing address out there, out west, way out yonder.
All right, definitely. Do you have a email sign-up list over at your website?
Yep. If they go under the contacts, they can hit me up. You can go to my Facebook page. I got Twitter, Instagram, they're all on the front page of my website. You just click on them, and it takes you to wherever you want to, whatever ridiculous stuff you want to see by me. I got my rock people up on Instagram right now. I always announce my gigs. I actually announced this on you're under the gig section of my website. Did you know that, man? With a link to this interview.
I did not know. Oh, wow.
You were up there, man. I put you up last week. Yeah. So we'll keep that up there so people know that you're doing it, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I see it. Yeah, right there in red.
There it is, baby.
Guys.
Can't miss it.
Black and white.
That's it.
That is awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
All right. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the podcast over here at Vigilantes Radio. All episodes are available for free download at least an hour after the show ends. I'm super fast about getting these things out because I know you guys want them, right? And you can grab that from our server over at Spreaker.com/only1media group. Make sure you follow, because if we get 100 followers there, we can get on iHeartRadio. And that would be cool for me, right? You can also grab the episodes from iTunes, at YouTube, and the new app called Podcast Addict. Carry us around in your pocket 24/7. Just plug in your earphones, and there we are in your ear. Isn't that lovely? Yes, it is. Or you can grab it from our website, which again is only1mediagroup.com. That's where a lot of you guys like to hang out, and that's super cool too. And that goes for every single episode that we've ever aired. If you'd like to request music or send something for us to play, email it to me at vradio@only1mediagroup.com. And if you tuned in at least 15 minutes before the show started, you heard our elevator music, right? And that's just a continuous loop of music that artists send me that they won't play, and that loop goes 24/7. So just imagine the reports I get every morning about how many people call in just to listen to the loop. And it's ridiculous, but I love it. I pay for the feature, and it works, okay? And it works for the artists. People just call in all types of night and day just to listen to the music. I think it's the artists themselves calling just to hear the song, but either way it goes, a lot of people are listening, and that's great for the artists. And here's my disclaimer while we are at it. We are genre-free, we do not judge, and we absolutely do not base our opinions on hearsay but facts. And actually, you can scratch all of that because all of my opinions are always right. It's the bottom line. This is my show. That's just something you got to deal with it. I'm just kidding. On behalf of myself, Deanie Mussolini, I appreciate all you guys for tuning in either afterwards or live with us. Spread the word. Sharing is caring. And also a special thanks to our guest, Dusty Wright, the great Dusty Wright, for joining us tonight. We stepped our game up just so you guys and our guests can have the best experience here on our show. Deanie may just end up on one of their songs. I do it all, my friends. Okay, well, just remember to be yourself and be absolutely freaking great at just doing that. Peace and have a great night.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds of the duo No Longer the Hero. Co-hosted by the Vigilantes Banditti. Call in to join the mix. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.